Hi, Krow.
Good day, sir.
How you doing? Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you okay.
Okay, good. I can hear you too.
Okay, let's just get this thing squared around a little bit and we'll be happy.
Hmm. Yep. There we go. There we go.
There. There. Well, it's been a crazy week. Yeah,
Let's see. Oh, let's, whose turn is it to do the prayer?
I'll
I
do it.
think you did it last time. Did you do it last time or did I do it last time? Anyway, let me do the personal prayer, and then if you want, you can do it, or I'll do mine.
You can go ahead.
Universal. Yep. Alrighty, I'll do it. Universal Father, we rededicate ourselves to your service. Eternal Son, we rededicate ourselves to your service. Infinite Spirit, we rededicate ourselves to your service. Amen.
Amen.
Universal Father, I pray for the residents, council, and reeve of this rural municipality. I pray for the residents, councils, and mayors of the villages in this rural municipality. I pray for the residents, council, and mayor of the capital city of this province. I pray for the MLAs and the premier of this province. I pray for the people of this province. May we discern the truth, and may we find the courage to stand up for what is right. I pray for the MPs and the Prime Minister of Canada. I pray for the people of Canada. May we discern the truth, and may we find the courage to stand up for what is right. I pray for the Congress, the President, and the Supreme Court of the United States. I pray for the people of the United States. May we discern the truth, and may we find the courage to stand up for what is right. I pray for all the leaders of this world. And finally, Father, I pray for all the people of this world. May we discern the truth, and may we find the courage to stand up for what is right. Amen.
Amen. And let's not forget to pray for the people that are trapped in democratic cities like Chicago.
Yep.
And there's so much going on that I actually had to start writing things down.
Okay.
If you could believe that.
Proto script. How about that?
Amazing. Yeah. And it's only points. Oh, I forgot to write one thing down. Yeah. Yeah. Let's not forget the 75 athletes that died on the field. Like forward, dead on the field while playing their particular sport. Take a wild guess how many have died so far. And, you know, we're talking just within like maybe a 10-month period or less.
What sport are we talking about?
All sports. Don't limit yourself to any one sport. All sports around the world.
Okay.
Take a wild. Oh, okay. Let's limit it to professional sports, and because these are the ones that you see on TV. Take a guess.
Okay, and
between tennis.
You said how many?
Yeah,
or
tennis, basketball, hockey, football, soccer, baseball. How many athletes?
And just collapsed on the field dead.
Collapsed on the field. What would your guess be on that?
Well,
what are the chances
of that happening? I thought you said. Yeah, I don't know. I thought you said 75.
Yeah, I did, didn't I?
Did you give away the punchline at the beginning?
I did.
I'm going to have to call you on that. I'm sorry.
No, I did accidentally. But that's 75 within a 10-month period. These are professional athletes. Professional. Like, these people are being paid to play the game. They all had to get vaccinated because that's what the league officials told them. And so they did.
Mm-hmm.
And now 75 of them have dropped dead on the field. And it's the craziest thing that you ever seen. I'm watching footage of this, and some guy put together a montage. It was a 6-minute montage. And I'm just like,
Hmm.
what? You just did a montage, 6 minutes long, of the athletes falling on the field dead. Some of them even had double heart attacks, if you can believe that shit.
Hmm.
I mean, who has a double heart attack?
Hmm. Yeah.
But yeah. Uh,
Jerry, I got Jerry watching. Hi, Jerry.
hey,
Welcome.
Jerry. So that's where we're at, right coming out of the gate. We are at
Okay.
75 dead athletes. And I
Yeah.
know that within the last 2 or 3 weeks, about maybe 20 of them dropped.
Hmm.
Like a lot of that number is just within the last month.
Okay. And let me tell you how just today I had a conversation, or I don't know if you could even call it a conversation, but basically some anti-vaxxer on one of the boards I follow was telling about, the numbers that he's supposedly found from like the CDC about how many people have been killed by the vaccine and so on. And then I said, and not to mention the 750,000 in America or how many of the 750,000 in America who died with or from had the quote COVID patients had terminal cancer or gunshot wounds or who knows what else that would have killed them soon, and then some person on the other side said prove it,
Yeah.
and I wasn't even. I had it word. I didn't have it word. I forgot a question mark at the end. I had it dot dot dot, and then I went back and put the question mark in, and I said, "Prove what?"
Yeah.
I was asking a question, not making a statement.
Yes.
And so this is what we're seeing, folks. The
Die hard.
what do you call
Yeah.
it?
Well, the thing is, for
The diametric, whatever it is,
just
diametric opposition.
just for the U.S. alone, the amount of people that have died from COVID is less than 500,000.
Hmm.
And I'm only counting the numbers that took place within the first year and a few months, because after that, the data gets really fucking wonky, and I don't trust those numbers.
Hmm.
But I do
Okay.
tend to I have more trust in the numbers that came out in the first year, like in 2020, than any numbers that have come out in 2021. So people are going to argue with me, and they're going to say like it's 700,000 or something like that. But I'm only looking at the numbers that you can actually, track the data before it starts skewing off into left field,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes a huge question mark. Actually, the number is actually like 365,000. And then after that, the numbers go somewheres where you can't follow them anymore, or they just don't make sense. So that is out of a population of what? 306
350 million,
out of
60 million. I don't know. I use 350 million. It's probably higher
so yeah,
now. So
so I'd say 350 million. 500,000.
that's what, like a percent, tenth of a percent. What? How much of a percent is that? 350 million, 300,000. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Anyways,
but I
it's
remember reading on
10%. I don't know.
cigarette packs,
But yeah.
because I love smoking, so I don't give a shit. Um, that cigarettes killed like 80,000 Canadians a year.
Hmm.
I can imagine that you could triple that number, and that would be the amount of Americans that cigarettes have killed in a year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just taking a guess because I don't know the American numbers, but I imagine that the numbers for the amount of people that have died from cigarette smoking is probably pretty close to the amount of people that died from COVID. But yet, I can still go to the corner store and buy cigarettes. So fuck you and your COVID. The numbers don't scare me. I mean, maybe if like 4 million people dropped dead within the first 4 months, okay, I probably would have stood up in my chair and I would have paid attention. But that was not the case at all. So I'm like, why am I scared of this? Of this less than 1% chance of killing me virus. Why am I going to sidestep anything for this? I already wash my hands. I already I'm already a fairly clean and well hygiene person, so I'm just like, there's not much else I can do here. I already take normal steps to avoid the seasonal flu. So, and I didn't see this as being, at least in my experience, this was not any different. I mean, I caught it, and that was the end of it. It's like, I didn't know I got it, but I did early on. And then a few weeks after I recovered from this sickness, that's when all of this bullshit started coming out about COVID. And quite frankly, I still didn't put two and two together because to me, it was just the flu. I did what I had to. I got over it. I mean, black pepper and chicken broth and, and some vitamins and minerals. And I was back in the game within a couple of days. Not a big deal. But of course, I'm one of those people that I don't wait until I am really, really sick to start taking care of an illness. As soon as I feel it in my bones, and if you really pay attention to your body, yes, you can feel it in your bones. It's your body. You can feel every molecule in your body if you paid attention. And I feel it. And then I'm like, oh, well, let's start giving my body the ammunition it requires to deal with it before my body starts calling for the ammunition. I'm not the Biden administration. I don't wait until everything goes to shit before I take action. I'm more like the Trump administration. I take preemptive action so that I don't have to deal with the bullshit later. And I allow the cells in my body to do the job that they were meant to do. My only purpose, I figure, is just to make sure that they have the resources necessary to do their job. Makes sense?
Yep. Yes.
So that's how I treat things. It's like, I mean, it's your body. You're the one in charge. So you're the one who has to, like, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Administrate what goes in.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like you're in charge of the supply chain of what goes into your body.
Oh, Krow got kicked off. Hang on. Let's see. Just a minute. Let me see if I can re-invite. Oh, what? Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Okay, Krow, if you're listening, see if you can re-request. Come in. Let's see. See if you can re-request an invite, question mark. or whatever it is. Because looking at it here, it says recently invited. Let's see, I can't re-invite. Request to be on. Go ahead and re-request to be on, semicolon. I can't re-invite you unless I restart. Okay, let's see if this will work. That just up and okay. Might have to do part 1 and 2, I don't know. Let me know if it seems to be working or not, Krow. Oh, there we go. Alrighty. Request. All right, request granted. Welcome back, Krow. That is strange.
There we go. That was just weird. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just a second.
Okay. There we go. Wow, that was just weird. So,
yeah, you froze up and then disappeared.
Okay, well, basically, I was just kind of saying that, you're the one in charge of your body. You decide what you put into it. Nobody else does. So, yeah, if you got poor health and it's not due to environment, and it's not, if it's due to diet, that's nobody's fault but your own. If it's due to the environment, I might be inclined to blame government. Why government and not industry? Because government, if it was being properly responsible, would be regulating industry properly so that it does not pollute our environment where we live and raise our children. So any failure in society can be traced right back to the government failing to do what it is supposed to be doing. And that is governing the country. And I think the name of government should be changed anyways, because government means governing the mental. That's what it means, governmental. That's it means to govern over people's minds. It should be more like, I don't know, administrating, geo-administration is what it should be, or I don't know, country administration or something like that. But it definitely shouldn't imply that you're governing over the people. But don't get me going on that shit, because the government can actually make more money from tariffs and duty fees of shit coming in and out of our country than they ever will taxing the citizens. A lot of people don't know that.
Interesting.
Yeah. Taxing the citizens of a country, it's lucky if it accounts for like 15% of the actual government revenue. Lucky. It doesn't account for a whole lot. The government can live without taxing the individual. Seriously. But they still insist on doing it. There's no reason to do it other than to say that, So if you add it up, everything that the government can tax for like goods and services coming in and out of the country and goods and services exchanged within our country, yeah, personal income tax adds up to less than 15% of that total amount of money. There's no reason to tax the individual.
Yeah. One interesting thing, and I don't know if it may be different in the United States, because I know one thing of the United States Congress, there's a clause in there that talks about, now maybe the federal government can do this. There's a clause against states, any one state regulating interstate commerce. I suppose the government probably has the power to regulate interstate commerce. They can tax stuff that goes across state lines. I guess wondering whether it's constitutional to tax, for the government to tax like the federal government, what happens financially within the commerce of the state. Like if I buy something in one city that's produced in another city in the same state, does the federal government have the right to tax that? Probably the state may have the right to tax that. I don't know.
The government,
but or probably it does.
I do believe there's a spot in the Constitution where it does outline that the government can actually tax goods and services that are crossing back and forth between state lines. So the states can.
I think you're probably right. Yeah.
But nowhere in the Constitution does it give the government the right to tax the individual. So it's like,
interesting.
It's like this other thing too. Did you know up until about maybe 30 or 40 years ago, it was international law that you could not sell water, but I could sell services related to water, but I couldn't sell the water itself. Like if I were to like take a bottle of water for sample, I can't sell you the water that's in the bottle, but I can sell you the bottle and the labor involved in bottling that water.
Okay.
So basically I'm selling you the service of a bottle of water, but I can't sell you the water itself. And I'm not sure. I think it might actually still be in place. But yeah, you can't sell water. You can only sell the service. It's like when you get your bill from the city for your water bill from the city, you're not paying for the water. You're paying for what it takes to get the water to your house. Yeah. I mean, you can opt out of that service, but you're probably, it's going to be inconvenient because you can't drill a well in the city. And so you're only left with transporting water in. But anyways, a nice little sidetrack. But this just goes to show you, like, just sometimes, like, there's rules that are in place that make sense, and then there's rules in place that don't make sense. And it seems like the rules that are in place that don't make sense seem to be designed to make sure that the average person never gets a leg up. Yeah. And I don't know what the deal is on that. It's like, why are you afraid of people? Why are they afraid of people having wealth, having the ability to sustain themselves, to self-sustain themselves? Why is that such a threat to them? And why do they need power over the individual? I don't know. The only thing that makes sense is all the horrific rumors about child trafficking and blood sacrifices. That's the only thing that makes this whole thing make sense, because you cannot have a society of self-sustaining people and get away with those kinds of crimes. That seems to be the only reason to want to keep people in a state of I don't know, perpetual anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So what else do we got? Oh, this one is my favorite. The amount of false prophets that got called out this week. They're all over the place. Hundreds, if not thousands of them. Except people don't recognize them as false prophets. I think Peter probably knows what I'm talking about. I'm talking about these personalities on YouTube and TikTok and BitChute and Rumble that are just feeding hopium to the masses. I'm talking about people like Charlie Ward and that other cocksucker. What the hell's his name? and Mike Lindell. Well, maybe not. No, not Mike Lindell. Lynn Wood. He's another one. Like Mike Lindell, I think is just a useful idiot. Poor bastard. Actually, I think a lot of these guys are useful idiots, but they're just like, they put out all of this fake information and people grab onto it, and it just makes everything, it makes the truth movement look stupid is what it does.
Yeah, basically your favorite left-wing YouTuber or your favorite right-wing YouTuber, you know, it's like, you know, not whatever. It's like the one guy you listen to for a while, and then all of a sudden you kind of just drop him for no reason or another. You get busy, or it's like, well, wait a second, he's saying this. He's saying the same thing over and over again. Maybe I think something else. I don't know. I did that with a string of them.
No, and I totally I do believe you should look at these people and you know, practice discernment and just always be questioning always. It's like, so I mean, a thing that really bothers me, and I know we do it here on our little show, but we're always like, you know, but we always just tell people straight up, it's like, go check this shit out for yourself. I mean, yeah,
Yes,
you don't know whether I'm telling.
Don't take our word for it.
Hell no. I mean, shit, I'm insane, and you know, I should be wearing, you know, a hat that has 9/16 card in it. If you guys don't get that, 9/16 is an irrational number. Oh man, first time I learned that about the Alice in Wonderland character, Mad Hatter, man, I fell in love with him. I'm just like, that is so awesome that, you know, that they slipped in that like 9/16 irrational number. That gives you a clue that there's like hidden mathematics all through Alice in Wonderland, by the way, and a lot of it to do with like some sacred geometry. Number sequences, like what was it? 1 2 1 2 3 4 8 7 5. It's related to Nikola Tesla's 369 in a really messed up way. But it's like, if you run out the string of numbers for the 369, what you end up, you always end up coming back to those numbers. 1 2 3 4 8 7 or 8 5 7. You always end up coming back to those numbers. You could end up in with like a string of 1 billion numbers, and eventually it will end at that. It doesn't matter. The equation is actually quite ingenious. So you write out the equation, and then you keep executing the equation. Okay, here's the rules. It's 3 times 1x. I think this is all from my memory. And what you do is you take, and if the answer is an even number, you double it. If not, 3 times x plus 1. And you keep going like that, and you keep following this sequence. Now, what ends up happening is that after a while, all you end up with is even numbers. And then eventually, after all of this doubling, you end up at that string of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 5, 7. You end up at that string of numbers every time. And then when you put all of this through a logarithm and you run it as a program, the designs that come out of this are mind-blowing. Like, there's pattern coming out. It's pattern that we find in nature all the time. It's almost like the way the golden ratio sequence is always found, like it comes out in nature. This sequence is actually related to the golden ratio. So, yeah. People say there's no God.
That's cool. And I'm just going to revisit something you said last time because I love it. 2 things: 3, 6, and 9. What does that add up to? 9.
Yeah.
And then we discovered last time that 9 equals infinity, because if you multiply it by anything, or all the numbers that add up to 9 add up to 9. You can explain it better than I do. But yeah, 3 and 6
you
is 9.
multiply by 9,
yep.
whatever number you arrive at, it will reduce to 9. Every time. It's the only number that does that. You can't do it with 2. You can't do it with 3. You can't do it with 6. You can't do it with any other number except 9. No matter what result you get, you could have 10 trillion, 6 quintil, whatever freaking number with like fucking 50 fucking decimal points. It does not matter what number it is. If you times that number by 9, the resulting answer will always add up to 9. So messed up. And I was like, that right there, that is proof of God as far as I'm concerned. And when you look at how this is actually set up right here, this thing, if you actually see how that is set up and how that how all the math, the vortex math works through that, it's just like it's like it proves God is what it does. Nikola Tesla knew that. He was blown away by it. And I don't think Nikola Tesla quite was able to wrap his head around it. But because I see it and it's amazing. It's how it's the foundation of God is what it is. Yeah, God had.
I always.
No, go ahead. You always what?
I always scratch my head when I encounter a quantum physicist who claims they're an atheist. Like, what the heck? You're obviously missing something.
And it's. Even Einstein, after a lifetime of doing equations, he was just like, in the end, he had to admit that there was God, and he did not want to do that. He was not happy about that at all, because he was part of that movement of in society that wanted to move away from God as an explanation for everything. And you know what? That wasn't a bad thing. That was a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that at all, because, you know, I mean, it's not like Einstein is going to end up in any place like hell. I doubt if Einstein will face oblivion, because the thing is that really the only requirement for spiritual survival is good character. That's it. Good character. That's all Jesus is interested in. All of this blood sacrifice and I don't know, self-flagellating,
Flagellation.
It's like,
yeah.
This is not what Jesus taught his disciples. I mean, he taught them to take care of each other, you know, and to, you know, he encouraged questioning. He encouraged them to ask questions, encouraged them to help, you know, just to build strong communities is all that he did. Everything that he taught them is good. And and it works. I mean, you cannot create a sustainable society that consumes its own citizens. You can't. And right now, we have evolved our capitalism in that direction. It's like people are always like going on. It's like, oh, capitalism is so horrible. It's evil, and it did the. You're talking about crony capitalism, corrupted capitalism. Capitalism is just a tool for us to use to organize our society, just like socialism is a tool for organizing society, or fascism, or Baalism. It's all just tools to to direct society. I mean, without some kind of structure, we would be still swinging in the trees of the jungle. We need societal structures in order to cooperate and to do and have things to live. It's like, if we did not have this type of society, we would all be full-time farmers or full-time hunter-gatherers. We wouldn't have time to read. We wouldn't have time to write. We might not even have time to even fucking think that shit up. You ever light a fire in the woods without flint? Yeah, you're at it for hours. It can be done. You can start a fire rubbing two sticks together. But guess what? You're going to be there for a really long time. I mean, I've watched videos of people doing it for like the first time in the forest. 6 hours later, after like lots of trial and error. And I mean, I'm sure after a while our ancestors got good at it, but imagine like the first human to have the time to do that. Well, actually, no, they didn't. They would get fire from like lightning strikes or forest fires or something. They would take care of that shit. Yeah. Once they had fire,
they figured out quickly where to find it, how to keep it going, how to transport it,
all of that.
That was their rocket
Yes.
science.
Yes.
Was the science of fire. And
yeah. Oh,
yeah, there's what is it, the bow drill that, they have that thing with a spinning stick. You spin a stick back and forth with a bow. That was like a quantum leap in fire starting technology before the advent of flint. What was it, flint or iron or whatever it was that could strike a spark.
well, the Urantia book tells us a nice story about the first two humans that bailed on their tribe because they were different, and they had thought adjusters when they left their tribe. So, and it's just a quick little blip that the angels that were walking with them and watching over them, which I imagine probably meant that no wild animal was coming near these twins at all, so they were protected. But one of them, oh shit, I forget his name.
And it's Andon and Fonta were the male and female.
Yeah, Andon. So Andon was going by this rock slide cliff, and he felt compelled to pick up some stones that we would call flint. And so he grabbed a bunch of them, thinking that something inside him was telling him that this is important. You should just grab a bunch of these and we'll figure it out later, but you should grab a bunch of these now. Well, how many times does that happen to people a day? I know it happens to me all the time, where it's like, yeah, bring that screwdriver. Zero explanation. But I'm like, fuck it. I don't need it. And then get to where I'm at and find out that, yeah, I need that. Yeah. So it can happen. It's like, got to pay attention to our little voices when they're helpful. And they can be helpful. So, what else do we got? Oh yeah, we're still on false prophets being called out. And that's happening like more. Oh, look at what's going on. Talk about the biggest false prophets being called out. Look at what's going on CNN, MSN, all the big ones. The big ones. Have you been following Rittenhouse trial?
I have not.
Oh,
I don't even know who he is. Please enlighten us.
It's a fucking circus right now. It's like the biggest circus I have ever seen in my fucking life. And I lived through the O.J. Simpson trial. I mean, that was a fucking circus as well. So was the Michael Jackson one. But the Michael Jackson one was done that way on purpose because in the end, they figured that, okay, for number one, the prosecution did not want to be in that courtroom with Michael Jackson. That was number one. They did not want to be there. I mean, you'll be known as the guy that convicted the king of pop. Yeah. And so I don't know. I mean, the trial, like O.J. Simpson, was so fucked up. You don't know who was guilty and who was innocent in the end because they had confused things so much that you just didn't know what the hell was going on. And so in the end, you were just left confused, so you couldn't make a decision, so you moved on from it. That was how that's how the cabal manipulates our psyche. That's how they do it. And when you look at these times when these big trials were going on, the Cosby trial, all these fucking circus, fucking sideshow bullshit was going on, it's usually when something like political is going on in the background. And right now, they just need all the cover that they can get. God, I watched a video just before we came on. It was hilarious. They lowered the teleprompter screen when Joe Biden sat down, and and so that it would end up blocking the camera from seeing him. I was just like, wow, they really, really, really don't want him to be on camera. And now, well, I heard somebody say it. They've got to get Joe Biden out of the White House before the State of the Union address. Because that's like, what, an hour and a half? Yeah. Can you imagine that dumb fuck on the stage for an hour and a half? Well, I think he's already actually they've done it with him a couple of times, but it's like when he starts going downhill in the last 15 minutes, it's not a slide, it's a plummet. It's like he goes down real fast. So whatever they're giving him to fucking jack him up, oh yeah, it's got a hard landing. But anyways, that's a little sideshow. But yeah, so Kyle Rittenhouse, and and I wasn't even paying enough attention to this stuff. I purposely avoided paying attention to it. I paid enough attention at the very beginning when the incident first took place, like I think it was like last year, in like about this time last year, actually, during the riots. And I did my own investigation, just what I could find on the internet, and came across videos. And so basically, I got myself familiar with the players that were involved. Like who was Kyle Rittenhouse? Who were the people that were shot? And where did it took place? What were the circumstances going on in and about the area where this took place? What was, just basically a bird's eye view of the situation. And I'll be like, yeah, okay, then we'll see where this shit show goes. I knew it was heading somewheres, but I didn't know it was heading here. And so now we fast forward, and I am shocked at what people do not know about this situation. And basically, the situation is this. We have a 17-year-old boy that comes to the city where his grandparents live, and where he has friends and family that own businesses in this town or city. And he came to help them clean up from the riots, and just basically clean up and help protect the property. Okay. Now, this is his grandparents plus friends. So this kid came to a city where he has family and friends. He is very familiar with this city. Okay. And so he brought his guns. And he's probably brought his guns there 1,000 times before, because it's a gun family. For those who aren't Americans, well, gun family is a thing. And so he was out patrolling his neighborhood, and came across some fuckers that wanted some trouble. And I don't know, one thing led to another, and next thing you know, Kyle is being chased. Well, he had a guy that threatened his life. And but him and another friend, they had left. But then that guy that threatened his life earlier in the evening had proceeded to hunt him and his friend down. And so they found him and his friend later because, again, they're patrolling this area to protect property of friends and family. And they get attacked by a skateboard. And they do the normal thing. They protect themselves. And so Kyle shot the person that hit him with a skateboard. You know, he gets as good as you get, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then these people seen him shoot this guy with the skateboard. They started screaming that it was a mass shooter. But mind you, he only shot off a couple of shots, and it was at only one person. And the next thing you know, he's got a whole mob of people chasing him. But most of them stopped chasing him after a while, but then there were some that stayed right on him. And they came up and they tried to attack him, so he shot. It was 3 of them that attacked him, and he shot 2 and wounded the other. And then he proceeded to go to the police and to surrender himself to get a fair investigation that this was a case of self-defense. And normally, this should not have left the jurisdiction of the police department. The police would have did a investigation, seen that it was a self-defense case, and that would have been the end of it, normally. And this is pretty much what you should expect. That's the way it normally goes in the United States. But it only seems to happen in Republican states and not in Democrat states. So there's just that. And so anyways, that's the event as a bird eye view as I had seen them.
Mm-hmm.
Over the course of a year, the media has somehow, some way, managed to forget the fact that the 3 men that were involved in this, actually the 4 if you count Kyle Rittenhouse, so the 4 men involved in this would have been, were all white. But somehow the media was able to spin it that the 3 victims somehow were black. I don't know how they did that, but good for them, I guess, if that's the narrative you want to do. And somehow conveniently left out that each one of these 3 guys, actually out of all 4, let's put it that way, out of all 4 of these people involved in this incident, only one was carrying a legal firearm with a legal permit. Guess which one that was? It was Rittenhouse. The other 3 were illegally carrying. One was a convicted felon for firearms and other crimes, and the other 2 were convicted pedophiles. And somehow the media thought it would leave that out. Well, that all came out in the court proceedings this week. That all of this came out. Mm-hmm. And the one survivor, he was on the stand. And this is a part that was just the most beautiful piece of justice I had ever seen in my life. Said straight up that he was pointing his gun at Rittenhouse when Rittenhouse shot him. If that is not self-defense, I don't know what is. Oh, Rittenhouse shot him in the arm, by the way. If you're wondering.
Right. I do remember. Yeah. some yesterday or day before, I think it was yesterday, somebody in one of my chats mentioned it mentioned Kyle Rittenhouse, and I went and looked him up. And yeah, that's basically the narrative that you are telling me about is what I read, that he was chased and attacked and defended himself. So I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
self-defense.
And so now this is all turning into a complete shit show. From what it turns out that the FBI was withholding sculpatory evidence, and that got found out through the course of the trial. And then we're finding out that the prosecution didn't follow procedure. We're finding that out through the course of the trial. They didn't act on certain search warrants because they were afraid those search warrants might produce sculpatory evidence. And so they didn't act on them. And their excuse for not acting on them is flimsy at best, because they're claiming that one of the people that had died, they claimed that he was the victim. And it's like, wait a second. We don't know if he was a victim or not. We know that he died. So he's a victim of death, I guess, if you want to follow if you want to follow a strict definition of things, which is what the law likes to do. But he was not, at that point in time, while the investigation was going on, he was not the victim of a crime. So if he was not the victim of a crime, then using Nancy's law as an excuse to not search the data files on his phone is flimsy at best, disingenuous to say the least. Because to assume that the dead person is the victim in all of this, it's like, no, that's not how investigation works. All parties are guilty to an investigator until it's actually proven to them that they're not. In a court, it's different. You're innocent till proven guilty. But to the investigating detectives, it's everybody's guilty until proven innocent. That is the premise that every detective works off of. And it's the only way that crime solving works. I mean, you can't assume that everybody is innocent and then try to prove them guilty. That's bullshit. I mean, if you wanted to do that, I could take anybody to court and force them to prove their innocence. That's bullshit. How would you love to live in a fucking country like that? Wouldn't that be fun? Imagine me. I mean, I could accuse my neighbor of stealing $50,000 from out of my mattress. I don't have 50,000 in my mattress. But I mean, and then in a country where you're guilty till proven innocent, that would mean that my neighbor would have to prove that he didn't steal the 50,000. And all I had to do was just keep saying that he did. How fucked up is that? This is what fucking social justice warriors want. This is what Democrats want. How fucked up do you have to be in the head to want a society like that? I mean, you would have to, yeah, that's like second level fucked up. I don't even know. Maybe there is no level for that. Maybe it's off the fucking charts. But yeah, and that's what the prosecution has been trying to do in this whole Rittenhouse thing. And it's just like, these people are insane. And it's starting to come out. There was a reporter on the stand, and I almost died laughing. It's just like, oh my God. And you got to remember, there's a judge watching this. And the judge is pulling his fucking hair out. He doesn't even know what the hell he's watching anymore. And then you have the poor jury. The jury, they are scared shitless. Because no matter what decision they render, it's going to be a shitstorm. And it's just like, wow. There's basically no justice in this courtroom. And anybody that says that there is, they're blind. They're fooling themselves. They have not got a proper grip on reality. If you think there's justice going on in that courthouse where the Rittenhouse trial is going on right now, it's like, I'm sorry, you just don't got a grip on reality, because there is none. The reporter's on the stand, and the prosecutor is asking them questions. And there were a series of questions to lead up to this one question, to where the prosecutor asked, did we ask you to change your testimony? To which the reporter responded, yes, you did. But I wasn't going to do that. And I'm just like, this is the prosecution's witness, by the way. This is not a defense witness. This is a prosecution witness. The prosecution is still they finished their case earlier this week, but I was just like, oh my God. And there were times when I was like watching clips of this trial, and for shits and giggles, I stopped watching the prosecution, the defense, and I put everything on mute, and I started watching just the court stenographer. Because I thought for a second, wait a second, she hears every fucking word being said in that courtroom. And I'm like, what? And so I started watching her, and I was like, this chick's a fucking stone. I mean, man, she was a champ. She was being a pro. Right up until, what the hell? Oh, man, I can't remember who was on the stand. I think it was one of the cops. One of the investigators was on the stand, and the prosecution was asking, and the detective or the prosecution was asking a question in such a way that the court stenographer, like, she was just like, you could see like her lips went down into just a slight frown, just a slight. And so I was like, ooh, that's a response. And then the answer that came out of that detective had her almost smirking. And because there was just a couple of twitches where she just went like that. And I thought, something happened here. I don't understand it because, well, I mean, I did kind of understand what kind of answer the prosecution was going to get from that line of questioning. And it wasn't going to be a good answer. And I understood. It's like, yeah, what it looked like I can't tell you exactly what was being said, but the overall vibe of the situation was like the prosecutor was doing the job of the defense. That's what it seemed like. And that's why that court stenographer just kind of had a twitch, because she noticed it too. And I noticed it. And then I was just like, oh my God, these people really are fucking stupid. Q was not kidding when he said these people are stupid. It's like,
I'm gonna press the pause button right there. And Napoleon, I think it is, never interfere with an enemy in the process of destroying himself.
And I'm pretty sure Napoleon got that from Art of War.
Probably, yeah. Yes.
Or at least probably extrapolated. But that is...
I'll have to look it up. Yeah, no, I want to know the origin of that expression.
And what was it?
It's credited to Napoleon in the English-speaking world, but I think it's older than that.
I think so, too.
By several thousand years.
And that is exactly what's going on. And here's the thing. I knew that what that event that took place with Kyle Rittenhouse, I shit you not, it felt like Michael's fingerprints all over it. That's what it felt like to me. I'm starting to get a sense that, like, there are events that have taken place, and I'm like, I want to like, they seem like they're important, but they're like just like these stupid little things that happen, and for some odd reason they just it feels like something resonating there, right? And
Yep.
I think the best way to describe it is right there. Michael's fingerprints are on it, and I think
It's
I'm starting to recognize it.
it's like a really good suspense movie where nothing makes sense until the last few minutes of the movie. Then everything does.
Yes. And what keeps bothering me, and it does bother me a lot, is that Q, maybe you might be able to help. Was there any point where Q said that we weren't to do anything? Because I don't think I've ever heard Q directly say, sit down, shut up, eat your cornflakes.
Okay.
But he did say that it is a show, it is a movie.
Yeah.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
I will run through some of the things I remember Q saying. More recently, it's some stuff like "You're gonna love how this movie ends," things like that. Further back, Q said, "Make and spread memes. Help calm help educate and calm the population for the storm. Prep them for the storm." That's about 150 where I am right now. I'm working back through. I'm looking at the answers on QAnon.pub, because last year I read through all 4,958 or whatever there are, and that, like, okay, that was an exercise in itself. Now I'm going back and reading the answers. There are answers up to about 300 or 400 posts, and not really any after that. I'm at about 160 or so. Yeah, so very important question. I want to, I find that, I want to explore that. Does Q ever say, do not take action?
And I don't think that there is.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think Q is saying, do what you can do. We will do the rest.
Yes.
If you can do a lot, fine. If you can do a little, fine. I don't think Q anywhere really expressly says do nothing. That doesn't strike me as the message that's supposed to be presented. It's educate yourself. That's the closest I can think of to Q saying do nothing. It's question things, educate yourself. You will be valuable later for having done so.
And what's bothering me,
and I will keep your question in mind as I continue, and if I see anything relevant to that, I'll bring it, I'll mention it.
Yeah, please do. Because I what I'm seeing, and I'm recognizing them as shills is what they're doing, and they are using Q as an excuse to do nothing. And it's just like, I don't remember Q ever saying do nothing.
Yeah, I've run into that talking with a couple of people. I asked somebody about Q, and they had that concern that you're wondering about.
Well, I mean, it would be a concern to me, because I mean, when I read Q, I seen it as do whatever you can at your level. Wherever you
Yes.
are at, start there and
Yep.
do what you can. And all levels are important. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the universe is a pyramidal construction. You've got foundation, you've got hierarchies. But Michael understands that it takes the whole structure. The whole structure has to be balanced in order
Mm-hmm.
for the structure to stand. The cabal does not
Yep.
understand that. What all they understand is power at the top, muck and mortar at the bottom. That's all they understand, and they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
that's the difference.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna speak to that, and I'm also gonna give you. Let's see, we're at 8:20, so maybe 10 minutes is all it looks like. Yeah, so 10 minutes maybe till 8:30, and then the machine seems to like to kick us off at 8:30. So
Well, yeah.
right, so the cabal, the swamp, whatever you want to call them, take an automobile. The engine and the wheels are not the only important parts of it. There's the ignition key, the steering wheel, the shock absorbers, the fuses in the fuse box. You pull out a couple of those, it won't work. Or, yeah, it's the idea that every level, everything, anything can do. It's okay that people have different levels. There's the engine, which produces several hundred horsepower. There's the fuses, which transfer various amounts of energy. All those are working at exactly the levels they need to work at. And yeah, some entities don't seem to understand that differences are okay.
And you know what?
Or
It's
yeah.
always blowing my mind. But it's funny because here's the kick. I understood that when I was like 12 years old, that it takes a system. Because I remember one of my cousins, she started dating this guy, and well, he wore a suit, and he was sufficiently impressed with himself in his level of education, his knowledge, his worth. And I remember him being out in the yard when he was visiting my cousin, and he was bragging. He was bragging a little bit about his car, but then there were some things wrong with it that needed fixing. And I was like, yeah. I was like, you do realize, I said, that the guy that is going to fix your car, I said, he is just as smart as you are. And he was like, no. And I was like, yes, but it's not the same kind of smart that you are. I was like, you are smart with numbers. I said, thus you got a job working with them. I said, the mechanic, I said, he is smart with the mechanics of how your car works and to keep it working. And I said, and it turned into a joke to him, or I turned it around on him by saying, you don't realize that you need all of these people to keep your world together until something happens when you need these people. But these people are always there. They are, they have to live and eat like the rest of us. And he didn't like that for some odd reason. He didn't like me pointing out that it didn't matter that the mechanic didn't wear a suit. It didn't matter that the mechanic smelled like gasoline and oil all the time. It didn't matter. He was still a person. He still has intelligence. It's just his intelligence ran in a different direction. He had an aptitude to do this, and he was happy to do it. That was his job, and he got paid for it. So I could never understand the disparity in wages as I grew up. It always it was always fascinating to me to realize that the people that did the least amount of work in society reaped most of the rewards of society. And I was just like, that makes hardly any fucking sense. And my father used to say it because he came up through as a plumber, as a mechanic. Yeah, he worked with his hands. He said he had never done so little and made so much in his life until he was pushing papers in an office. But he did say one thing, and I guess this is something that you figure out once you get there. He also never had so much responsibility before either. And that was part of it, is that he was in charge of whole territories. And if something went wrong, everybody blamed him. So, yeah.
Yep. That's the trade-off.
That's the trade-off.
The dynamic, or the whatever you want to call it. The big picture, I guess. And yeah, okay. What do we
I still think that
politicians
should not be allowed to make any more than the average person does in the constituency for which they represent. You imagine that? How quickly would it force political representation to show an interest in the economic health of their constituents if their livelihood was directly tied to their constituents' livelihood? How quickly do you think that things would change? It's like you represent your rural municipality, but you know that your wage is directly tied to the amount of money that your community makes. What are you going to do now when you come to Regina to petition for money? Yeah. you're going to yeah, when you get money, you won't use it to do your own lawn. You'll have to use it to do your neighbor's lawn, because the only way that you're going to get your lawn done is if you do your late neighbor's lawn first, up the value of his property so that it can up the value of your wage. You see what I mean when I try to explain to people? It's like there is nothing wrong with our system when you really think about it. The problem is that we have ignored the gaping holes in our system that need to be plugged up. And the things to plug them up are such simple and little things that we can do that they hardly require any change, but they would perpetuate larger changes over time.
Yes.
As something as simple as anybody wanting to run for the leadership position of a province or the country must disassociate themselves with all party affiliations. And
independence only, folks.
Independence only. You're running on your own ticket. Because that's part of the problem in Canada, is that And I bet it's the same thing in the States. People don't vote for the person, they vote for the party.
Right.
And so they're like, oh, I want a Democrat in the White House. I want a Republican. Whoa, back up, people. You're not looking at the bigger picture, because the Democrat that you have in the White House right now is a fucking moron. I'm sorry, but if it isn't obvious by now, then you're disconnected from reality. It should be. He farted in front of a princess or a fucking queen. It's like, are you kidding? You are introduced to royalty, and she shakes your hand, and you fart like she pulled your finger. It's like, oh dear God. It's like, I mean, well, I mean, if your goal was to have everybody talking about you, well, goal met, goals exceeded.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have a line from the fictional fleet admiral of the space fleet in my science fiction story. She said to somebody once, "Congratulations, it takes skill to honk off an entire planet."
oh, yeah. Sometimes stupidity can take skill. I mean, I really do. Like, I'm looking at the situations with these different governments that are trying to mandate a medical procedure, and I'm thinking to myself, it's like, what fucking reality do you live in? Which actually brings us to something else. Oh, well, we'll see. We'll see how
Let's see. It's 8:30.
yeah.
We should end on this
Okay,
one,
we're gonna have to
perhaps.
end on this one. Okay. A week ago, I guess, I come talking with this businessman. And this businessman, he's like one of those people that's enthusiastic about numbers and data and research. And, to him, this sort of stuff is just fun things to do. Well, he decided to look into something, and he discovered something. And I didn't believe him at the time. But this week, I'm scratching my head. Well, last week, he said that when he did the research on the data for the amount of people vaccinated in Canada, the numbers was less than 45%. I'm like, what? That's bullshit. He had the data. This week, there were several of those Twitter surveys that people put up. You know what I mean, right? And it asked three questions. It asked a question, and there were three answers. Uh, anti anti-vax, vaxxed, or unvaxxed, or something like that. And there, in one sampling.
Yes. Yeah. I can see how they put yes, no, or heck
Yeah.
no. That type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, please go
So
ahead.
one of the answers, or one of the things that you could check off was nope, no jab. And so this sampling was from a sampling of over 35,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And the response ratio for not jabbed was, well, it was well over 85%. It
Really?
was way up there. And I'm just like, whoa, wait a second.
85% no.
85% no jab. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you're surprised too, aren't you? So I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's fucked up. Then I seen another one, and similar questions, and still one of the responses was no jab. This was from a sampling of less than 2,000. It was still over 80% no. I'm just like, what the fuck? And I seen a third one. Same idea, little bit different wording in the answers, but in the end, it was the same answer. No jab. Yeah.
Where'd they do these surveys? Rural, but well, it was on Twitter. It was online.
Yeah, it was online, so it's worldwide.
And Canadian Twitter users.
Canadian.
Is that, am I correct? Or worldwide Twitter users or Canadian Twitter users? What was the rank?
Okay, I know one survey was done by a Canadian Twitter user.
Okay.
One was. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure the second one was American. I'm not sure about the third.
Okay.
Yeah, right. But I do know one was Canadian for sure. And that was the less than 2,000 sampling. And I was like, oh. Mm-hmm. I think the 35,000 one was U.S. and potentially the world. Yeah. And
I'm surprised it stayed on that result stayed up on Twitter long enough to be counted.
Twitter's fucking weird. There are things that Twitter goes after, and then there's things that Twitter just completely ignores. It's
yeah, you can slip stuff under the radar. So certain stuff slips under the radar, and certain stuff gets nuked right away. I don't use Twitter. I think you use Twitter. I don't use Twitter. But I've heard stories about it, and this is anecdotal on my part.
No, you are correct. It seems random. It just the only conclusion is that I get the impression that Twitter is whoever is in control of that Twitter sphere is just following orders. That's it. And I had a vision. It was weird. I had a vision of this spider web. This web, it was connecting everything. And this spider was backed into an area where it was always in the shadows. It was always dark. And nobody could really see the spider. The only thing that you could see were her webs coming out. Mm-hmm. And sitting on each string of the web was somebody was standing there. I don't quite. There was a fair amount. There's a number. Could have been 13. It was more than 8, less than 20. I can tell you that. And and they were standing there. And then further out, there were more people. But these ones that were standing there were important. But then the vision shifted. The spider was gone. And now the amount of people that were standing on each string, a lot of them were gone. And I think that there was probably 6 of them sitting there left, standing on the strings. And they were pretending that they were still taking orders from the spider. But the spider was gone. And remember how I said that it seems like they lost their leadership, their intelligent, long vision, down the road leadership that could execute a plan over centuries? As it seems like they lost that leadership because the plan was working. The plan was going great all through the 20th century.
Yes, it
It was.
was.
They were just chugging along.
Mm-hmm.
They were cowing us where they needed us to be. We were going along nicely. They did everything that they needed to do. They destroyed a generation of fathers so that they had a generation of boys growing up without fathers, raised by widows. They did a great job. Everything was in place. And then we get up to the 90s, and everything was still going great, actually. And then the plan was still going great, even up through 2000. And then somewhere right between like 2008 and 2014, things started to go off the rails. I see where they go off the rails. Everybody can see where they went off the rails. And yeah, the leadership, they're still pretending that they're following the orders and they're following a plan. I think I said this, and from what I could see in my vision, it. I don't know. I might have been bang on the money. They had a plan all mapped out, and they were following the plan. But then she lost, and they had to improvise the plan. And now the plan is, and now they're trying to, they haven't the imagination to come up with a new plan. So what they are trying to do is they're trying to put the old plan back on the rails, but
Yeah.
the rails aren't
The
there
situation,
anymore.
yeah. So I've said it before. The situation that they're in, it seems to me, is they're at a double disadvantage, right? They had their overseers, which is okay, fine. But the overseers were jealous and never trained them to do anything without the overseer's direction. And now they don't have they not only do not have the overseer, their double disadvantage is they've never been trained to operate without the overseer. So
this
yeah.
is why evil always carries the seeds of its own destruction. We've talked about this before. Evil evil only survives because of its own power. So it will always be seeking power in order to survive. Those that operate in the light, we don't need to seek power because we're getting power from the light all the time. And so we share the power because all of it comes from Michael anyways. It's not even ours to, to possess. It's ours to share. And so when you're dealing with people of the light, we're constantly teaching each other all the time. Like, that's the difference between good and evil, is that when you have good character, you want everybody else around you to have good character because you want to be able to play with people that you can trust. I mean, who wants to play with someone that is going to upset the game board and pull out a knife? I don't want to play with that person. I don't want to play with that person at all. I just want that person gone, away from me. I want to play with someone that is smart, it's got dynamic intelligence and good character because it makes for an interesting game. I'm not letting them win. They're not letting me win. But we're playing the game and it's fun. And yeah, so they have lost complete control of the whole game. And I find it funny that they keep trying to steer back to the plan, trying to get all this fear, and it's falling apart. This whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing, this is just showing everybody just how badly mainstream media lies to them. And it's happening in real time. It's like we can watch the live feed from the court. This is the best part. And I have YouTube to go, and I can go back in time and I can watch. And that's what I
Yep.
do. And I can watch on one screen what MSN is saying, and I can watch on another screen what was said, actual, real time in the courtroom. And guess what? You find out that what the mainstream media say is reporting and what actually happened in the courtroom are two different realities completely. And you're just like, how did they think they're going to get away with that shit? Oh, one more thing.
Who?
Then we
Yeah.
really got to call it.
Okay.
Project Veritas. I want people, I mean, I was just like, this is just
Okay.
so blatantly corrupt. You got no choice but to laugh at it. And these people are just stupid. Project Veritas, almost a year ago, came in possession of Ashley Biden's diary, Joe Biden's daughter. She had left it behind at a house that she was staying in. I don't fucking know. Anyways, the Project Veritas, eventually this diary landed in their lap. Project Veritas read it, tried to verify the information, could not verify the information, gave the diary back to the people that gave it to them, and they refused to take it. So he tried to give it to the Biden's lawyers, Ashley Biden's lawyers. They wouldn't take the diary. So then Project Veritas took the diary and tried to turn it over to local law enforcement. Now, this is where things got a little lost. I'm not sure if local law enforcement took it or what have you. That's actually hasn't even been clarified. Weird. Anyways, this diary has actually been floating around on the internet since like January of this year. It's been floating around. A few people have paid attention to it, but for the most part, nobody's paid any attention to it. All of a sudden, out of a clear blue sky, the FBI raids the offices of some journalists who used to work for Project Veritas, used to, looking for this diary. And of course, they told the people whose doors they busted down that they'd better keep their fucking mouths shut and not report this. Well, they told James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe has got a big fucking mouth. I mean, he's a journalist. He's supposed to. Anyways, so it's like nobody paid attention to this diary. Nobody even knew this diary existed except a handful of people. And ever since the FBI took a jackboot through the door of a Veritas reporter, the whole fucking country now knows about this diary. And okay, well, maybe only half the country knew. But then they decided to knock down the door of James O'Keefe, the editor of Project Veritas. Well, that was probably, I mean, if there's like a level of dumbness of like stupid shit you probably shouldn't do, these dumb fucks went off the chart. And because as soon as they put a boot through James O'Keefe's door, well, James O'Keefe has been on Fox News and Right Side. He's been on all the news channels, plus he has his own news. And yeah, it didn't take very long that if half the country knew before, Now the whole country knows about Ashley Biden's
Mm-hmm.
diary. And since it's on
Okay.
the internet, guess what? Everybody is interested in Ashley Biden's diary.
What is it they say about an idea whose time has come?
So now everybody's reading this diary, which nobody would have read before. And there's some
Mm-hmm.
shit in it that is just like, wow, okay, this chick, if this diary is true, this chick had huge fucking daddy issues, like off the chart daddy issues. And you got to wonder about daddy. It's like, it talks about them
Mm-hmm.
showering together when she was little. It's just like, it's just some fucked up shit. Okay. And what else? Yeah. Oh, so at the same time, all of this shit's going on. This is where it gets really interesting. Project Veritas is suing the New York Times for defamation and winning, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just in the last couple of days, the New York Times published information, confidential information about Project Veritas, that you get this. Oh, God, you got to love James Keith for being such an anal and organized fucker. This information could have only come from the FBI because this information was only on James O'Keefe's phone. It was nowhere else. And they seized his phone the night that they kicked down his door. And the New York Times has that information and published it. You see how all the bullshit goes around? It's just, the whole thing's going to fall apart, is what it's going to do. And, oh yeah, Durham arrested 2 guys. I think we talked about that already. Anyways, we should wrap it up.
All righty. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for watching us. Be good to each other. I'm Krow, and
I'm Peter, and this has been P&K Q&A.
Salute.
Peace out.